Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay. Welcome to the battle for Azeroth. First pass look during the alpha at the Windwalker Monk. And I'm not going to try to... It's kind of like what I talked about with Frost Mage and Arcane Mage. I'm not going to go into all the little micro DPS, cooldown, stacking, window possibilities. I'll explain them, but I am not a seasoned Windwalker, so I don't need to try to do it in this discussion, just, you know, overview video. So if you know what you're doing, that's the whole point, right? I am here to show you what has changed and how things have changed and how you could put it all together, all the building blocks, as the spec evolves over the course of the alpha into the beta. Now, we did about 3.5 hours today. 3 hours. We had some rants at the end there, trying to figure out everything for Windwalker. And there have been some pretty significant baseline changes overall, which I will go into, of course, and some of the cooldown math and everything else that has gone on. And yes, if you are staring at the female blood elf in front of you, she does have golden eyes. So I'll be using the same model, of course, for all of the testing so far. However, the gloves on the alpha realm, I can't get the ones that match the set, so just ignore the fact that her gloves look bad. The key art was what I would like to hear look like, but I don't want the stats to look any different. If you're new to the channel, of course, you can subscribe right here to keep up to date on all of the first and second pass testing to come, the island exploration expedition things, as well as war fronts in the future, and anything else that I put together, beta and alpha shows, possibly. And you can check out the live stream where all of the actual testing takes place. All the information is right down there in the video description box. This is not your first rodeo on YouTube, all right? If you're new, there are buttons if you like what you see. Either myself or the stuff that I'm talking about. Anyway, the Windwalker Monk. We're going to stand here for a little bit because I have some things to just flatly go over and open up with. There's a huge document that Hina actually put together that he linked to me, but I had to make my own little keynotes so that I would know what I was talking about. Because otherwise I'll just skim through his stuff and I won't know my order is different, yada yada. So the first thing up to date here is the problem that Windwalker has on live right now that many of you have been plagued by is the attack power versus weapon damage. The new way that attack power coefficients or weapon damage works is if you look on a database, you will see things just say attack power. But that is the attack power coefficient. But there is still a huge amount of extra math being done behind the scenes that weapon damage is more or less factored into everything, or at least your weapon DPS. So there will be a comment down below that has the new modifier, but essentially your weapon DPS times 6 is added to your attack power, which is then multiplied by your attack power coefficient, and then multiplied by any other outside factor such as your mastery or hit combo or versatility, etc. So your weapon DPS factors into this, and different spells have different versions. There actually is this crazy string we brought up on stream about Blackout Kick having main hand and offhand damage worked into how it scales, so that your weapon, as it will grow in power over the course of eluding new ones in Battle for Azeroth, won't be such a sore problem for Windwalkers because your weapon damage will scale you up and not just be white damage, which is a super ridiculously awesome passive to have now, has the groundwork for how all your damage scales. Additionally, talking about passives, Mystic Touch is new, and where I am personally not a big fan of a lot of these new raid-wide buffs coming back into the game because it disproportionately values or devalues certain classes and or specs, depending on where they're balanced at. Currently, there's only 2 of these in the game. Demon Hunters have the magic damage taken debuff. Both Demon Hunters, both Vengeance and Havoc, and then all monks have Mystic Touch, which is the physical damage taken debuff. This applies by everything except, I think, Flying Serpent Kick's AoE. And it lasts for a minute, and it will randomly refresh every 5 or so seconds as long as you're still attacking the mob. So it's very passive, it lasts all the time, but as a Mythic Raider, you're probably going to need to have a monk, a Brewmaster, a Windwalker, or a Mistweaver in your raid now, mandatory, because 5% physical damage taken across your entire raid group is a little ridiculous. And same thing for a Demon Hunter. You need to have a Vengeance or a Havoc Demon Hunter because you want 5% magic damage taken from your entire raid group. That's ridiculous. So it's neat. It's putting a little more oomph into the Monk class because they are the least played class, I believe, in the entire game. But we'll see how that works out. Windwalking is the same as it is on live. Your mastery is still combo strikes, where you deal additional damage when your abilities are not repeats of the previous ability. So always something new every time. There are a few times that you may hit a Tiger Palm back to back, but once you hit the next ability, it's going to be implied by mastery anyway. What this does is this hurts your single target abilities if you are incorrectly using Tiger Palm, or hurts your AoE if you're incorrectly not weaving around your spinning crane kicks. That's about the biggest problem you run into with your combo strikes. Just you can never do back-to-back abilities. And obviously you're not going to spam Blackout Kick very often. But more of that in a second. Afterlife remains the same. Zen Pilgrimage is the same. It doesn't work properly right now because our characters on the Alpha Realm can't go to Legion areas. Transcendence has been nerfed slightly, that your Transcendence transfers down to a 45-second cooldown. Additionally, you have lost a few abilities, which we'll see on the talent tier soon enough. But baseline, you now have Ring of Peace baseline. This is only for Windwalker monks. You also, right there, I misclicked. You also have your leg sweep baseline. It was added up to added 15 seconds to the overall cooldown, so it's a minute-long cooldown now, most like other stuns in the game currently. It's 5 yards and only 3 seconds. And before you freak out about that, everyone's toolkits have been cut down in the stun department almost entirely, except as I continue on the path of utility and exterior toolkit CC stuff, paralysis was also cut down a little bit. It's now a 1 minute cooldown with the same effect it has on live. So you won't be able to just use paralysis like a micro stun interrupt anymore, but it is still there as the incapacitate in or out of combat. And again, Ring of Peace and leg sweep baseline. You still, of course, have disable, which still has the root attachment to disable. And a note on slows and snares, flying serpent kick still has a 70% snare attached to it, which is very powerful considering most snares in the game right now are at, like, I think slow from Arcane Mage, which is a castable on one target, is 70%. But that's one target. This is an AoE for 4 seconds on a 25-second cooldown. Thunderclap slow is 20%. A lot of slows have been cut down heavily. Earthbind totem's been nerfed, etc., etc. So the overall robustness of the toolkit in the utility category for Windwalker, you added your 2 best utility options baseline. That you have other options now in that tier that are very self-sufficient. You don't have exterior ones anymore exactly, if you take Tiger's Lust, for example. And that's a huge, huge thing to keep in mind. Obviously, you still have your Spear Hand Strike Interrupt. That's still the same. And you still have Provoke, which still has the run speed increase on the peel, right? You can still taunt PvE mobs and they'll run at you, right? And you can still help, and you could also wipe your raid faster by trolling them, of course, but that's still there. Still have your, of course, your res, because you are a class that does have a healer built in. And you still have your cleanse, which was an interesting topic that Detox still exists, which is poison diseases. But Red Paladin still has their one. So that's not any huge difference, but you didn't lose it, just to make sure we're on the same page there. So overall rotation-wise, the Windwalker Monk hasn't changed. Just to be honest. There are new talents and some new ways to integrate them, but the way Windwalker Monk plays is the same. The biggest changes to that, however, are you lost the extra 40 energy you're used to. That is gone. You have 100 energy now, and Tiger Palm remains 50 energy. It still generates, where is that Tiger Palm? Right over here. Still generates 2 chi. Still has the 8% chance to make the next Blackout Kick cost no chi. And it still costs 50 energy. Does no damage. It's still jab. And if you didn't notice it already, the damn animation problem with your weapons disappearing during the jab animation is still there. I am going to report it, of course. I don't know why this happens, because it just looks super awkward that your weapon just vanishes and then comes back. Like you're some anime character. You're a monk, I guess. Sure, but honestly, it's just completely ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. So hopefully they fix that. Or just make it so you can toggle your weapons off all the time or on all the time. Not this, like, only Tiger Palm makes it go away. I don't understand. Additional big changes. Fist of Fury. On live, currently, it has the attack power coefficient, and it deals damage in front of you, just non-abated, right? And it has AoE cap, I believe. But Fist of Fury has an AoE change where it deals full damage to the main target, and all other targets that are not primary take half damage, but are the same half damage. There's no more AoE split behind the scenes there, and I don't know what the target cap would be because of this forced 50% less. Which means that the problem that you have with Fist of Fury on large target pools is lessened to a degree, and it makes it so that using Fist of Fury on multiple targets is going to be not as detrimental overall. So it's a pretty nice change, because the damage will then scale a little more linearly on AoE with Fist of Fury. But obviously, make sure your main target is the one you want to be punching the most, because that's the one that takes the full damage amount. Blackout Kick also has an interesting hook here, where it reduces the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury by 1 second when used. Now, Blackout Kick hits pretty hard, but the argument that we brought up on stream about combo strikes and never wanting to hit the same ability twice in a row, the cooldown reduction on Blackout Kick is an interesting curiosity, because do you actually aggressively spend chi to reduce the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury more often? Because having them back up more often, and then of course they'll scale with your mastery, is a lot more damage? Or is it just kind of the other problem, a double-edged sword, that makes it so that you care less about haste? Right? Because if you have built-in CDR on Blackout Kick, and yes, of course, you have some haste synergies with, you know, Fist of Fury cooling down faster, and Rising Sun Kick cooling down faster, and that kind of stuff with your haste. If you get passive cooldown reduction, do you need more of it than a certain amount? There might be an energy regeneration period that you want to land on, but it's really aggressive that if you wanted to, there is a window that it might actually be useful to do it in, which I'm saying from the purposes of the from the sense of maybe a Serenity Burst window, using it more often is going to be maybe more damage. But you have to be careful, because you spend too much chi, you're not gonna have the chi to actually use Fist of Fury, because you only spend so much because of, you know, gear or whatever. I'm not sure, because that one's curious. Is the damage lost on multiple Blackout Kicks more for having more Rising Sun, more Fist of Fury? That's for you guys to figure out, math people to figure out, not me. Storm Earth and Fire is on the global cooldown. Energizing Elixir on the global cooldown. Touch of Death on the global cooldown. Serenity on the global cooldown. So slight changes. A lot of CDs are all going on the global cooldown. Almost all of them. There's a few that are still floating out there in the alpha that aren't. But to not freak out about that too much, they did add 1 second to Serenity. They did not add any more time to SEF. Not sure if that's going to be a problem or not, but considering that every single cooldown is like this, everyone is on the same footing, it's not going to, hopefully not disproportionately, make certain cooldowns worse and others even better, because of how a lot of that AoE cooldown or single target cooldown synergies now have been changed a little bit over the course of the entire game. So keep that in mind. The target focus acquisition button, however, is off of the global cooldown. It has its own cooldown, but there is no cooldown incurred by focusing your clones on a target. So that is still off the GCD. But again, if I cast a Touch of Death, you're going to see the global cooldown go there. So That may or may not be a huge problem. The timing of certain abilities will definitely be changing for your Touch of Death window. I didn't do it properly. I know, don't freak out. My goodness. But I was just showing off the rotation there with when you use hit it. But you saw that 8-second window on Touch of Death, and the Gale Burst artifact passive was rolled in baseline. So the 10% of all other damage you deal to the target will be added to the final damage dealt. Still does half of your HP to the target after 8 seconds. So that is still very much there. And Storm Earth and Fire, outside of losing the 5% damage from the artifact, is unchanged. They will still fly around like crazy things, and they will put your Mark of the Crane on everything. Whoops. They will still try to find targets that don't have Mark of the Crane on them, so you can get all those juicy Mark of the Crane stacks to do big spinning crane kicks. Give me that. Yeah. That is still a thing. Or again, you focus them on a target to have the essentially 35% damage amp on a single target. That is still very much there. Outside of that, back over to my notes real quick. Spinning crane kick, you just saw me using it a couple times. They did, when they changed and made your Fist of Fury have the main target and then 50% all others, they also changed spinning crane kick. It now costs 2 chi, down from 3 chi. And the Mark of the Crane damage amp is only 10%, down from 40, which is a pretty big deal. But again, everyone's getting these AoE reductions in the base kit. When you want more AoE, you have to spec for more AoE. There's too much flagrant AoE across every single person, every single spec in the game. So that is Ben. I just tested it. It's 4:56 in the morning. I'm sorry. That has been reduced slightly. Of course, it still only applies on Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick. Still lasts for 15 seconds. So that is to take into account. But that shouldn't really change damage numbers or burst possibilities. It just won't make it baseline as ridiculous as it is on live right now. And Dampen Harm is gone, as well as Ox Statue is gone, as well as something else was removed. You lost Chi Orbit. Oh, that's right. I forgot that it was removed because... oh, no. Moment of silence for Chi Orbit? That's all it needs. All right. So, yeah, Black Ox Statue and Dampen Harm are also been removed. Have also been removed. My goodness, don't make fun of me in the YouTube comments, okay? I'm tired, but I'm still trying to make videos. All right, and that's all my notes, I believe. Oh, Invoke Zhuen was changed, but that whole tier has also been changed. So Zhuen's a 2-minute cooldown now, down from 3, lasts 20 seconds, down from 45. He still does the auto attacks. He still does his amazing roar when you summon him. Where's it gonna go? Right there. But he still auto attacks and then AoEs 3 targets around him with the nature damage. I am going to report that I don't know why he doesn't have his actual auto attack damage or anything scaling in this tooltip, which I guess doesn't really matter. His auto attack is very, very tiny, but the tooltip just seems incomplete that it only talks about his lightning but doesn't talk about his actual attack damage also. I'm not sure why. So he is much more of a burst cooldown, and if you put 2 and 2 together, he syncs up 100% with TOD now. They're both 2-minute cooldowns. Exactly. You'd obviously would Zhuen before you Touch of Death because of the 8-second Touch of Death window, and Zhuen lasts 20. So there you go. Also, before you freak out, Zhuen, okay? It sounds fun when you just say Zhuen. It's just like one word. There you go. But the big kitty boy is still there. Rushing Jade Wind has been heavily changed now to basically be a Bone Storm / Breath of Syndragosa / Fury of Air that does destroy your focus regeneration. It's hilarious. I can't talk it right now. Damn it. Duh. It wrecks you. So to back up on a math point, if you didn't know how this works, base energy regeneration on the Windwalker Monk, and I think on all rogues and feral druids, is 10 a second. Over the course of one tick of a second, you get 10. Every 10% haste is 1 energy, right? It's incremental, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, but again, at 10, you'd have 11 energy. At 20, you'd have 12 energy regeneration. So this takes away 4 a second. That is equivalent to 40 haste. And if the damage is not there, RJW will be a little bit awkward to use outside of, say, a Serenity Bomb window or as a toggle on, toggle off. It also is a little bit obnoxious because it lasts forever. So if you liked the RJW, you know, feathers floating around you, this is the 8-yard window, by the way. This is 8 yards all around. It hits both of them. There it goes. So if you like Rushing Jade Wind, you can be a green tornado all the time if you'd like, but it does chunk your energy regeneration baseline. It is very noticeable how slow the spec will start to get once you do this, because you can't build anywhere near as fast. But yeah, it even fell off right there because I pulled my energy as I hit the Tiger Palm. So it's definitely a toggle on, toggle off, or a potential burst window during Serenity. Hit combo was then also nerfed to 1% damage per stack at 6 stacks, down from 2, which mostly just is also because of all the squishing, right? It's just damage scaling changes. It's still a flat 6% damage. And doing napkin math when we were trying to figure this out, these 3 talents outside of the certain situation you'll use them in will probably be very, very close together, right? So Zhuen has 20 seconds of uptime every 2 minutes. He deals X damage. RJW, if active for 2 minutes, would do X damage. How much is that in comparison? And the hit combo is 6% multiplicative on everything else that you do, AoE, single target, etc. How much damage does that actually add with the current 6% versus the 12 you have on live? So to find a comparison for that, that's obviously very mathy, but it's very single target potential for Zhuen. And honestly, the AoE between RJW and hit combo is up to how many mobs you're hitting. That's the topic we talked about today. Is that because RJW hits everything around you every second, the tooltip is also broken. It doesn't tell you the tick rate, the haste scaling, anything like that, so it doesn't show you anything. But whereas hit combo is just the 6% flat damage. So these are numerically awkward. I'm not sure how that's going to work out in the end for the Windwalker Monk, but it definitely feels weird that it lasts forever and isn't like a toggle on, use for a while, toggle off. I'm not really sure. So if you like hit combo, you can still take that. Otherwise, there's your options in that tier for the changes. The other changes go to your energy tier. I hovered over Energizing Elixir earlier, and like I said before, it's on the global cooldown. So if I just show you this real quick, I'm going to burn through some energy and some chi. Just do that one there. Whop! It only gives you all energy and 2 chi now. It does not give you all energy and all chi. Energizing Elixir was way too powerful, so it still gives you the full energy bar, which is helpful for rebuilding chi, but it will not give you 5 chi, only gives you 2. And again, the global cooldown is a slight nuisance or change or whatever, but again, it's 1.3-ish, 1.4 seconds. It's not a huge deal. People were complaining about the skill cap of the game actually being lowered, making the game easier by adding the global cooldown. I countered that with the fact that you could just macro a ton of stuff together that's off the global cooldown, and that's simplifying because it removes buttons, it removes presses, it removes choice, it removes timing windows. So I would say the opposite. Power Strikes is ridiculously buffed. Every 15 seconds, your next Tiger Palm generates 1 additional chi. It still has the chi protection behind it. Whereas if you cannot actually gain 3 chi, it will not let you use the proc, which does, of course, just delay the 15-second passive proc window. But that Tiger Palm proc deals 200% more damage now. There it is right there. So that is potentially better. It still only is 4 chi a minute if you're not chi capped when you want to hit that global cooldown for Tiger Palm. But it does feel quite good to time that. I almost timed that properly. To every 15 seconds or so, again, back on the Blackout Kick's cooldown reduction for Fist of Fury, it almost lines up that every Tiger Palm lands right before a Fist of Fury, giving you the 3 chi right there, and then you Fist of Fury. Depending on, of course, your base haste and how much better you are than me at this class, which is probably way better, that's fine. But Power Strikes is interesting in that regard. The damage amp is nice, but Tiger Palm does very little damage, so making it not hit like a wet noodle all the time is nice. Again, math may come down to play on that one. And then Ascension was buffed to be the 1 additional chi, you go to 6, 10% energy regeneration, and it gives you 20 max energy. The initial, was that it's 20 of the 40 you're used to right now. The 6 chi is also really impactful because now that means you have more rotational power for spinning crane kicks on AoE, and the additional energy involved there gives you the more able to build a little more aggressively when you need to with Tiger Palm, because you have more leeway when you're casting, right? You can actually overcap. It also gives some more bonus to, I guess, some more scaling potential to haste. But again, Windwalker Monk's probably going to want an amount of haste and then not anymore, because you have GCD lowering, but you want some. There'll be some math there. But Ascension's really good. This looks pretty powerful now due to the AoE possibilities. Power Strikes could be very single target oriented. Obviously, Energizing Elixir is the on-demand rotational control. Could be there for certain encounters. Could be there for a Touch of Death style play. We're being very aggressive in whatever window you need to work in. So we'll see. But we all can agree that Energizing Elixir had to get cut down because it was the supreme talent for the whole expansion, basically. So other changes are your utility tiers, which you've seen have moved around a little bit. Diffuse Magic is the same. Chi Torpedo is down here now. So you can actually take Chi Torpedo with Celerity. These do stack. So you almost can keep the Chi Torpedo momentum up all the time once you get it stacked to 2. Which is really ridiculous, I think, in a PvP sense. Because of the cooldown reduction, you can have this all the time. So good freaking luck ever getting away from a Windwalker Monk in PvP now. Which is sort of the whole point, right? I think there was a soft spot that was poked a little aggressively with the onset of the Havoc Demon Hunter coming into play. Or the Demon Hunter in general, right? Mostly Havoc, though. For competing with the mobility of what the Windwalker brought and is about, this very mobile melee DPS. So you saw it there, how long they kept, I mean, of course it'll fall off right there because of the cooldown. But that is a little ridiculous, on top of the fact that you still have Flying Serpent Kick. And the fact that you can throw a Ring of Peace out in front of you and bounce people back into you if they try to run away. That's really powerful. And then you have Inner Strength is new. Inner Strength is very simple to understand, but will probably have reaching possibilities in the raiding scene. Every chi you spend will reduce damage you take by 3% passively for 4 seconds. This stacks to 5. The tooltip is incorrect. It doesn't actually say anything. And just using chi overall just keeps it going. It'll stay up all the time. The problem is, you saw there, the Blackout combo free kick does not refresh it, which could be a bug. Or it could be intentional because you're not spending chi. But it's very possible to keep this up almost all the time. Yeah, almost all the time. But it'll restack right back up to it. So fights that have like that Syndragosa, like AoE pulsing all the time, Agrimar kind of dots are on you, there's damage going on all the time, and you can keep doing damage. Having just flat passive versatility damage reduction all the time is ridiculous. So these 2 tiers, and Celerity is up with Tiger's Lust and Healing Elixirs now. You have mobility and damage reductions, or mobility and healing, in these 2 utility tiers. And it depends on the encounter. The arguments that are brought up today on stream was that why am I have to choose between a heal and mobility? Well, again, Mythic Raider Brain. Mobility is not only damage, but also damage reduction depending on the encounter style, versus when there's unavoidable damage, like Crackle on Nefarian, where you're going to get splatted in the face, then Healing Elixir, because you don't need to move anywhere, you're just standing there, right? You don't need more mobility, you don't need Tiger's Lust, you don't need Celerity. You'll take the heal. Or if it's a huge chunk of magic damage that you can't get rid of, or there's a giant dot you're going to be soaking, then you diffuse magic. If not, mobility. If not, passive DR. So these are utility choices now, other than just locking in 2 and then never changing them. So that's an interesting choice, and that's why they're paired up against each other, because they remove some of your baseline utility you were always using anyway, in the form of, again, your stun, the Ring of Peace. So now you have other options to choose from, which I think is nice, because I played Enhancement for 10 plus years, and when they started gutting my spec from all of my utility toolkit, I was in the same boat going like, well, I'm gonna pick anything. Eye of the Tiger is the same. Chi Wave is the same. Really good with hit combo, as you all know. Chi Burst. Chi Burst is now a builder. It deals damage, heals for more than the damage it deals per target, of course, it hits, and it gives you 1 chi per enemy target that the Chi Burst goes through. So right off the bat, again for AoE, Chi Burst now becomes quite king with Ascension because it gives you 6 chi. So building your stacks natively. Can we tap my tab target, please? I can't target this back dummy. Thank you. And being able to build so much chi on demand a lot more often to always maintain, whoops, those stacks. Oh, let's go over here. The tab targeting is weird right now for some reason. And there we go. Obviously, you want to like dump all of your chi first, ideally. But that's, again, why you might need to also spam, if you're AoEing, spam Blackout Kick to reduce the cooldown of Fist of Fury for AoE and to Mark of the Crane everything. And in that sense, when you're AoEing, you don't need to care about your mastery very much because you don't need to. What you're trying to do is amplify your spinning Crane Kick and reduce the cooldown of Fist of Fury. And Chi Burst gives you 6 chi, or 5, right? In 1 global, in 1 short cast time, and so does AoE damage. That's a nice change, because we know that Chi Wave was strong, and we know that Eye of the Tiger was easy and did damage. It just did what it did to do. Has the added healing done, so world questing, etc. But Chi Burst needed some love, and there it goes. Your last tier down here has Whirling Dragon Punch still. It, of course, still synergizes with your... everything that's supposed to synergize with your SEF still does, of course. That is still very much there. So when you can, if I can do it properly, there we go. And then we do one of these. Yes! That's still very much there. And what you're seeing with my SEF as well is one of the other... I'm doing your new talents last, if you haven't realized that yet. You're seeing one of the new talents right there, but you're used to what it is. Serenity has 9 seconds instead of 8, because it's on the global cooldown. It's still very much functions the exact same way. If you want more talk about Serenity, we talked about this for probably close to an hour on the VOD about the yes or no to AoE versus single target. It looks very much that Serenity is the single target bursty talent. You may even have to delay it because of the forced desync, because of Zhuen and Touch of Death are both 2-minute cooldowns. But again, that's for math people to figure out, not me. But that is what Serenity is. It does the exact same stuff it does on live. You have Wind Strikes. This is new. And then we'll go to your totally new level 60 tier. Wind Strikes is just your Strike of the Windlord, but it's whenever you use Fist of Fury, your next 3 Tiger Palms release a gust of wind that deal physical damage to all enemies within 8 yards in front of you. So if you like the Strike of the Windlord, it doesn't do damage right now, it's bugged. But that would be same exact animation. And you're not going to obviously do that unless you're actually AoEing. But I'm not sure if this damage it does is not going to be mastery affected, but we can't obviously test it because it happens on top of your Tiger Palm. But if it is mastery affected, then that's pretty nice. We'll have to wait and see how that works. But that is what Wind Strikes is. It is the easier option down here. But I would argue still a much better, and I think you could all agree in the comment section, This is a much better talent than Chi Orbit. Just saying. All right. Wrap this up with your brand new tier of talents in the middle here. It will be pretty quick because obviously they're not too engaging. Tornado Kicks is just your Sonic the Hedgehog spin, which is your trait from your artifact weapon you have on live. It's just that Rising Sun Kick will strike an additional time for 25% additional damage. Well, 25% of the damage that it does, right? Because it's less damage. It kind of words awkwardly. It's not additional. It's just that it's 25% of the damage it originally dealt. But again, Blackout Kick combination and the Serenity window. Do you aggressively spam Blackout Kick to get more Tornado Kicks? I'm not sure. It may or may not be a thing. Combo Breaker is terrible, sucks, and is awful, and hopefully will get changed because it's the dumbest talent, and it's also bugged, and it works all the time right now on Alpha anyway, but it just means when you get the Blackout Kick effect, it will reset the cooldown of RSK. You've been seeing it in this whole video because it's bugged, but it doesn't do anything. You can get a reset on RSK at 1 second on the cooldown, or you can get it reset at 8 seconds on the cooldown, which is huge. But if you don't have the chi for it, you can't even hit the button. So it changes, and it's called Combo Breaker because what you would obviously do in that sense is that you would hit RSK and then your free Blackout Kick, but it's just isn't that good. It's easily the worst talent that Windwalker Monk has now, so hopefully it gets changed. There was a couple options people threw out in chat today, but we'll see how that works out. And then Fist of the White Tiger. Also, if you've missed any animations from live right now, then here is one returning. Fist of the White Tiger is Strike of the Wind Lord without the wind poofs. Wind Strikes has that. And it gives you the Lightning Claw effect from Zhuan. But it is a super jab. It costs 10 less energy on a 30-second cooldown. It does way more damage than a jab. Also, will still scale with your mastery, of course, in that sense. Still scale with hit combo, still kills combo strikes. But it generates 3 chi. And this lines up, because of the, again, Blackout Kick change, with every other Fist of Fury, roughly. And it rotates really well. So, going back to what we talked about before, Power Strikes is basically every Fist of Fury, but Fist of the White Tiger is every other. It's also the only... Hello, Rogue Friend. It's also the only other builder you can physically have other than Chi Burst. But Chi Burst, even building on one target may be okay. Not sure. Its damage is much, much higher than hitting a Tiger Palm. But Tiger Palm is 2 chi, but it costs 50 energy versus 1 chi on single target, but not costing any energy, so you can regen a little bit when you're actually casting the spell. But again, nature damage, way more nature damage than Tiger Palm. You have all these options, right? So Power Strikes, Chi Burst, and Fist of the White Tiger will change how you build. You'll still spend the same way, right? You'll still prioritize Fist of Fury, Rising Sun Kicks over anything else most of the time, and then so you could enable your Rolling Dragon Punch, etc. But the slight changes overall and the big scaling, huge weapon damage, attack power coefficient, my brain was like, the string always comes up when we talk about this, is very, 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 very good. And let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Windwalker Monk changes. I'll do one more Fist of the White Tiger for you. Yo! It does no damage right now, it's bugged. If you didn't notice that, it doesn't do any damage. So it quite literally does like a little bit of damage, but it doesn't generate the chi. So I've reversed that because I'm tired. So no chi does the damage. So they just have to add that in, of course. But other ways to build chi, same ways to spend them, a little bit different way to spend them technically, this whatever the hell this is. And let me know what you guys think down below. If you want a lot more of the minutia, apparently I said that word every single episode, so I'm going to keep doing it, of all the testing, the VOD will be available. Or post your thoughts, yes or no, yay or nay. The toolkit is huge. Thank you very much for watching the Windwalker Monk video. Subscribe right here on the YouTube channel if you want to keep up to date with all of the changes, first pass, second passes in the future. Subscribe to or go follow the Twitch channel where we do all the testing live, and you can give me your input and tell me if I'm doing something wrong. And don't just tell me in the comments that I did. If you could help me do it on the stream, Or go follow me on Twitter and let me know what you think of all the testing and keep it to date with when I go live. I always post there when I'm going live. Thank you all very much for watching. I'm going to go to bed, and Brewmaster Monk is next.